If you talk about economy, as we all know, it's the most important aspect of any government's public policy because that demonstrates the ability of the government to improve quality of lives of the people. It supports the livelihoods. It also enhances countries' global standing. Your economy is growing. The whole world is interested in you. They want to invest in the growing economy. They want to do trade with you because they always look at it as an opportunity. So economy has to be one of the most important aspect of domestic as well as a global policy for any government. For India to kickstart the economy after having faced a very unprecedented challenge of pandemic like we have never seen before, we have to work on short-term measures, long-term measures. Short-term measures only government has announced in a very significant way to protect livelihoods and others, trying to protect small and medium enterprises from the challenges they are facing. The medium-term measures have to be in the form of infrastructure development. Because if you know, and you have been a senior journalist, so you have been writing on it, it's one of the real reason why India's potential growth is not fully reached its peak because of certain inherent problems which have been there. We have been talking about it for a long time, legacy issues. One is infrastructure, and other is maybe productivity, governance, and issues related to that. When we talk about infrastructure, this is one big problem. I remember my days as a Minister of Power 20 years ago. When we introduced a new law, Electricity Act, that brought in huge investment of more than $250 billion into generation. We had already started a program to take this to the next level of distribution reforms, which in turn could have brought in not only investment, but we have created surplus in power sector. Power sector would be generating few tens of billions of surpluses every year, which in turn could have been reinvested into modernizing power sector as well as investing somewhere else. But that investment improved India's competitiveness. Because we became power surplus, the industry which had to start their own captive power plant didn't have to do that. So the industry's investment, the capex plans, could be redrawn because otherwise every industry which had to start a business had to unnecessarily put extra investment into generation of captive power, which one went up. Number two, because of certain competition, the power rates came down. In fact, it would have come down even further if you had focused on distribution reforms. So improving competitiveness, but while doing that, also improving the investment climate, which in turn created jobs, which created investments into buying of equipment, turbines, generators that we have to buy. We had to make our generating capacity was 100,000 when I introduced the law, and today it is 350,000. So you can imagine how 3.5 times increase in capacity. That extent in infrastructure, the point I was telling you is, will help one improving investment climate, therefore economic activity because people in infrastructure are buying so many things for manufactured products. In the process, you improve competitiveness of India. One of the reasons why India is not able to fully exploit the potential of its growth is this. So I think making investment infrastructure will have a immediate benefit, but also medium-term benefit in terms of improving structural competitiveness of India. So I think making investment infrastructure has to be a priority. Thanks to Prime Minister, he has created an infrastructure pipeline of more than $1 trillion. Therefore, I think that itself will bring in huge benefits.
Right, sir. So the Prime Minister has also spoken about making India a manufacturing superpower. And then he has also said that India should not try and be an alternate to some other country. So how do you think that can be achieved?
Okay, now let me first, this is a very important question. So let me just, if you give me a few minutes, let me I'll give you a little comprehensive answer. Number one, what do you mean by manufacturing? Now, manufacturing as a process has undergone a sea change over a period of last few decades, globally as well as in India. For example, when you are making a car, you are saying I am manufacturing automobile. How many parts go into automobiles? Several hundred parts. When you're making an aircraft, tens of thousands of parts go into making an aircraft. When I went to Airbus factory, Airbus assembly plant in France, when I was the Minister of Aviation, I was shocked to see a probably few 100,000 parts go into making an aircraft. So now when you talk about manufacturing, when you say I'm manufacturing an aircraft or manufacturing a car, are you doing everything that goes into that part finally? Maybe you're assembling it.
Right, right,
Therefore, when you assemble it, you are saying I am making it. So
right,
all that goes into making that final product, assembled product, ready for sale. All that goes into those components and all the things also is manufacturing. So when you say we are going to be manufacturing hub for the world, it means many things that Prime Minister is saying. One, you could be a final assembly point, or you could be a component manufacturer, or you could be doing intermediary manufacturing, like what we do in case of pharmaceuticals, when we use intermediary products to make formulation. So ultimately, all of that becomes manufacturing. So when Prime Minister is saying, it has a connotation that you can do each of these and all of these also. In some cases, you can do all of this, depending upon uh, you can, for example, it makes sense sometimes that you make everything, but it makes sometimes because you have to be competitive globally. It makes sometimes that you make something which others can make it better and you buy it and then sell it. Normally in management, there's a parlance, there's a principle which says, I have to make a choice, buy or make choice. Whether I should make everything on my shop floor or buy something from outside.
right,
Then that concept got expanded. Even Peter Drucker, many decades ago, had talked about, he didn't use the word outsourcing, but he talked about this possibility that you need not make everything yourself. And now, if you can really look at it, it makes sense because ultimately you have to decide at what level of value addition you want to specialize in manufacturing. Whether you want to specialize at lower end, which China did for a long time, and therefore that was a low cost manufacturing, labor intensive manufacturing, or you have to be at a intermediary level, wherein, like in case of our pharma industry, we buy APIs from somewhere and make formulations and sell it. Or you have to be a higher end level, like in case of, say, our space program, where we are actually doing everything at a very high end. That's the final product. Of course, we are not yet commercialized it, and that's what Prime Minister's vision is, to commercialize our space. The potential is absolutely fantastic idea. So manufacturing has many different meanings. So I think in India, we should focus on each of these depending upon the industry. Let's take another example, textiles. We were known as Manchester of the East. There are 67 textile mills in Ahmedabad and some more outside of that. Mumbai probably had more than 100. What happened to that? Why? Because they felt that they will do everything, but they failed to specialize and focus on something. So, in the process, sometimes by just insisting on doing everything, you may lose out your market share. Or sometimes you don't want to depend on someone outside, and then you also face challenges. Like case of pharma industry today, because your bulk of your APIs are imported, therefore you're not making them yourself. But there's another challenge, and that's something which we must understand in case of manufacturing. There is something like rare earth, which are so critical. for the entire foundation of your electronic business. Now everything is electronic, though becoming digital, but still hardware may be even electronic, the digital may be the software part. In electronic, the rare earths play a very key role. If you don't have access to rare earth, how do you manufacture? In fact,
Right.
that is, I don't want to name two countries, neighboring countries, who had this fight. One country was very advanced in manufacturing, the other country who had the source of rare earth. So they were trying to strangulate them in terms of controlling that supply. So we have to be therefore plan our manufacturing strategy, keeping all this in mind. Raw materials, and in that raw material, not just simple commodities, because you can import iron ore and make steel. That's commodity, converting into that. But also you have to be conscious of how do you make some of the key access to some of the rare earths very important. If we are wanting to be the hub for manufacturing of human electronics, which we should be, because we are importing a lot, and therefore it makes sense that we do it, because we are also growing consumer market where the demand is very high. So it makes sense. But then we have to plan it all together. So it's a very important, complex proposition.
Right, sir.